On the morning of December 23, 2015, police entered a quiet home in Ellington, Connecticut, and discovered a terrifying scene. Connie Dabate, a 39-year-old mother of two, had been shot and killed. Her husband, Richard, was injured and partially restrained with zip ties. He blamed a masked intruder. It was a frightening story, with one fatal problem. Something inside that house had recorded a completely different timeline, and it was about to turn the surviving husband into the investigation's central suspect. Connie Dabate was 39 years old. She lived in Ellington, Connecticut, with Richard and their two young sons. On December 23, 2015, she was found shot to death inside the family's home. He told investigators that he returned to the family's home that morning. There, according to his account, he encountered a masked intruder. Richard claimed the attacker killed Connie, injured him, and restrained him with zip ties. His account placed the shooting at approximately 9:05 that morning. At first, the scene appeared to support a violent home invasion. But investigators could not rely on appearances. They needed to determine whether the evidence inside the house followed the same timeline as Richard's story. Almost immediately, the first contradiction emerged. Computer records showed activity through the home's internet connection during a period when Richard claimed he had already left for work. The activity placed him, or at least a device he was using, inside the home's digital environment, when his account suggested he should have been somewhere else. Investigators then examined additional electronic records. Phone activity and information from the home security system placed further pressure on Richard's timeline. Each source captured a small part of that morning. When investigators aligned those timestamps, the sequence he described became increasingly difficult to reconcile with the evidence. This was no longer simply Richard's word against an unknown intruder. The house had created its own record of what happened. But the computers, phones, and security system were not the most damaging evidence. Connie had been wearing something that morning, an ordinary device designed to record an ordinary part of daily life. It did not capture a photograph. It did not record a conversation. But it preserved one fact Richard's story could not explain. Connie was still moving. At this point, would you still have believed the masked intruder story? Or would the digital contradictions have changed the direction of your investigation? Tell us in the comments. Because the next timestamp did more than raise another question. It showed that Connie was active about an hour after Richard claimed she had been killed. That was the Crimovant fracture moment. Data from Connie's Fitbit showed activity until approximately 10:05 that morning. Richard's account placed the shooting at approximately 9:05. About an hour separated those two timelines, and the device had no reason to protect either one. The Fitbit did not identify a killer. By itself, it could not explain what happened inside the house. But when investigators compared its timestamps with the computer activity, phone records, home security information, and Richard's statements, the masked intruder story began to collapse. The investigation also uncovered a possible motive. Prosecutors alleged that Richard had been involved in an extramarital relationship with a woman who was pregnant with his child when Connie was killed. They argued that the affair, pregnancy, marital problems, and financial pressures helped explain why Richard wanted to escape his existing life. Those were the prosecution's arguments, not an independent psychological diagnosis. Richard maintained his innocence and denied murdering his wife. Authorities arrested him in 2017. Years later, in 2022, his case went to trial. Over approximately 5 weeks, jurors heard testimony from about 130 witnesses and considered roughly 600 exhibits. The evidence extended far beyond a single fitness tracker. Prosecutors presented the jury with a network of electronic records, physical evidence, and contradictions in Richard's statements. In May 2022, the jury found Richard Dabate guilty of murdering Connie, tampering with physical evidence, and making a false statement. On August 18, 2022, he was sentenced to a total effective term of 65 years in prison. But the legal case did not end there. Richard appealed his conviction and challenged, among other issues, the admission of the Fitbit evidence. On March 11, 2025, the Connecticut Supreme Court affirmed the trial court's judgment. The court concluded that the Fitbit evidence was scientifically reliable and had been properly admitted. Although it identified 4 instances of prosecutorial impropriety, the court determined that they did not deprive Richard of a fair trial when considered against the strength and scale of the evidence. His conviction remained in place. Connie wore the Fitbit to record something ordinary, her daily activity. She could not have known that its final timestamps would one day help reconstruct the last morning of her life. Richard's story depended on an empty space, a period when he believed no witness could contradict him. But that space wasn't empty. Connie's movements were still there, quietly preserved in the data. The device did not speak. It simply remembered. If you value true crime documentaries that follow the evidence, examine the psychology, and remember the people behind the case, subscribe to Crimovant. For another investigation shaped by one overlooked detail, select the case appearing on your screen. This is Crimovant, where one overlooked moment can expose the entire truth.